anything?
I am not this year, but now that sports betting legal, I
to talk about that.
went down to was supposed to go down to Winter Circle with a buddy earlier this week, but we ended up not going.
All right, it's another Sunday. We are live with the Whiskey Wagers. We're going to have an absolute awesome time today. I'm pretty excited about this one. We have another comedian in the house. And if you're looking on the YouTube live stream, dude has the best mustache I've ever seen, hands down. Thing is, is that a handlebar mustache? Is that the proper?
It's actually
handlebars down. Best mustache I've ever seen.
It's the best ever.
Nice.
So the comedian we have, Tony Foxworthy. Let's give it up, Fada.
Look out.
Yeah. I mean, huge round of applause.
Yeah, I'm used to. Yeah, that's one more than I'm used to. So,
so you're a comedian, and I know you're often at the Crackers Comedy Club. Do you work at Crackers? Are you a headliner? What's
no? So I have featured there. I'm one of the regular MCs. That's my home club. So I'm usually there about once a month. I was actually just there this weekend.
The one downtown.
What? Yeah. So it used to be both Broad Ripple and downtown. The Broad Ripple closed in February.
The Broad Ripple closed
February of 2018.
People
so
got tired of getting shot at when they go to comedy shows.
How much I've been involved.
We had a guy we went to high school with, Matt Backus, hosted at Crackers.
Okay, yeah. Is that Drunk Matt? Is that the same?
I don't know.
He's real like skinny.
Okay, yes. Okay. I know exactly who he is though. Yeah.
I know Matt had been like out in New York a little bit. So is he back in Indy?
No, I think he's in California.
Oh, is he? Okay. Yeah.
Are you originally from this area?
I am. I graduated from Plainfield, so out west of the airport. Yeah, a little suburb kid.
Yeah. I used to work out that way, but so shit, man, you had a little drive. Is like is the interstate?
45 minutes. It wasn't too bad. They routed around something, so I got on 70 and they just took me around and a weird way, so it added a little bit on the way out here.
Construction in Indianapolis was absolute trash.
I like how they
at all times.
Oh my god!
No,
that's it. The only relief you get is when they're working on the other side of the road, right? No, just the other side of the road, like over the median. Like those people are fucked, but I can drive. Yeah,
I feel like it's a necessary evil because I mean some of the potholes are terrible, but at the same time, it's like kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because the traffic is super fucked.
I've always thought like
at least at rush hour when I'm dealing with it, like I fucking
anytime I hit a pothole or like have to deal with road construction, all I can think about is like it's fucking 2019 and we haven't found a better medium to make roads out of.
Well, that's no lie.
But cure cancer, but we can't cure potholes.
But also here's the thing. I think it's a little bit us. Because I was last year was like my first big year on the road. I did 12 states, and I had
that's a lot.
I had 5. Yeah, it put on like 45,000 miles on my car in like 18 months. I've had 5 flat tires in that 18 months since I bought this car. I've had 5 flat tires.
Got roadside assistance.
I did. Well, I do have AAA, but I've also got free tire and wheel replacement, so I don't give a fuck. Yeah. But I was and honestly, what was happening was overinflating my tires a little too much, so the potholes were blown out. But all of those flat tires, all that driving, all of those states, they were all within 465. All 5, yes, yes. And our road, like you can literally be on an interstate, cross out of Indiana, and then you're like, I haven't hit a pothole in like 3 hours. What happened?
I saw a thing. I think it was this year. They had so many tort claims and so many potholes that it would have consumed like 6 years worth of normal budget to fix the roads. That's crazy.
Jesus, dude.
I used to travel for work a lot, and like especially out of state and stuff, and it is like that.
Yes,
it just sucks in Indiana.
It is.
So you've been to 12 states recently. Are you? Where's the farthest you've gone? Traveled for
comedy.
Yeah. So Boston. So it was 18 hours and 1,000 miles on the dot from driveway to hotel parking spot. 1,000 miles.
Jesus.
Sucked balls. And so my car is a 6-speed manual. Even when a comic rides with me, sometimes they still can't drive my car.
Yeah.
So I drove the whole way. Yeah.
My first car was a manual, and I got real tired of people not being able to even just back my car like out if I'm
Dude,
behind you. Like they
I've
couldn't do
always
it.
said I wish everyone had just driven a manual in rush hour traffic at least one time.
You're gonna pump that thigh.
You like learn how to not tailgate people when you have to.
Oh, that's very fair too.
But
But
it's a bitch.
oh yeah, and then also, I'm kind of sound like a crotchety old man when I say this, but if you can't drive a stick, in my opinion, you can't drive.
Oh yeah,
you can
right.
steer. You can steer the shit out of this car, but you don't know what you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's a skill that many people don't have anymore to be able to drive a manual.
They don't make very many. Either.
They don't, and even the cars that are fun, because like the sports car now, because that DSG, like,
or they have like paddle shifters.
So that's it. So I mentioned my car's a 6-speed manual. I have a little Volkswagen GTI, which is a little turbo hot hatch car. It's fun as shit to drive, right? So mine's the manual. The automatic has launch control and paddle shifters, and so it's like that's really hard not to get right. Yeah,
I miss driving stick.
It's definitely a different experience. Like if I got a sports car,
nostalgic because that's what I learned.
So one of my buddies who raced, he actually was into like drifting and shit. When I said that to him one time, I was like, I kind of wish I may have went with automatic to get that launch control. He's like, dude, every fucking car has launch control. It's your left foot. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Nailed it. Just manual launch control.
Yeah, exactly. It's analog.
So you've been to Boston recently, or Boston was the farthest you've gone, I should say. I don't know if
actually I will be back at the end of this month. Yeah, it was probably last year, but I'll be back at the end of this month as
where's your the best comedy scene that you've been to? I can't imagine
Pittsburgh,
it's local.
Well, in my opinion, we have a really good scene, especially the size of Indianapolis. You can get on. There's 2 mics on Monday. There's a mic on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, a late night on Thursday, random ones on Friday, and then a showcase on Sunday that usually has 2 or 3 spots for local comics to get on it once you get to that point.
Encouraging that local.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stage time. There's a lot of, in my opinion, really funny comics in the city. But my favorite has been the 2 places have been Atlanta's top notch for me.
That is easily my least favorite city of all time.
If we're just talking traffic, sure, but the comedy scene is phenomenal.
Yeah. Dave Chappelle did his special there.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it is great. They have a ton of venues. They have a ton of comics. That is that next quite levels city than Indianapolis. Like it's almost like on the same. Atlanta, in my opinion, is kind of close to Chicago in the aspect of the number of mics that are out there. Like you can do. I said, there's 2 on Monday, 2 on Wednesday, but you can't do both at the same time.
Right.
Those big cities, you can go from this mic to this mic to this mic. And Atlanta is one of those cities. They had one I showed up to, it was a Thursday night mic, and there were 60 people on the list.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's got to be exhausting. Like, I mean, we're both musicians, so I know, it takes a toll on you anytime you perform or create any type of art, it's mentally and physically draining. Doing multiple shows in a day or in a weekend.
But as a comedian,
you need that. But
that
with the band, all of that time you spent in your garage playing guitar, that's what open mics are for us, because we can't do what we do in a room with nobody. You can run through, but eventually even that turns into a speech. You can stand in front of the mirror and put your hands down. One of my buddies, one time we were giving him shit when he first started because he was like walking around the stage a lot. Like he was like, we would call it stalking the stage. It was like, do you remember that early Dane Cook with the black tank top and how he's just like pacing hard from one end of the stage to the other? Almost. Right. That's what this kid was. And we were giving him hell for it. And he took a picture and sent it to me. He was going through his set standing in a laundry basket, and he stood in his hamper so he couldn't move. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
If you're not a comedian, I feel like that's something you don't even think about. You might notice it on stage, but like as a comedian, you have to view comedy differently. Like you can see certain things that other people probably just don't pick up on. Like he might be running the light, or
just
the crowd work that they do
on the other side of the stage.
It's little tells, and 100%. And it's little things that will tell somebody's how new they are. Like if they loop the mic cord and hold it in their hand.
They have to have something to hold on
I
to.
would never think of that.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a tell. Sometimes people just the mic stand in general, people don't know exactly what to do. They don't move it all the way out of the way.
The
or
stool, maybe.
Right.
Know what to do with my
And that's 100% is I had
think about that
no
day-to-day life.
I went to like a booking seminar. It was a booker that was just doing like a Q&A, and that was one of the things he looked for was if you fumble with the mic stand when you send him a video, he knows even if you're funny that you're newer than what it's easy to get a 5 not easy, I take that, it's really hard to get a good video any length, but you can trick somebody into getting a good 5-minute video and then be right, and then that may be all you have.
What got you into comedy?
It's something I always wanted to do. My mom laughs because when I played Little League Baseball, the 2nd grade, they give you those little trading cards with your picture when you order the pictures. And on the back of mine from 2nd grade, it says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And it said stand-up comedian.
Boom.
And so that was just growing up. I'll be 39 in January. So I grew up through the 80s and 90s.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, I get that. It's because I'm a ginger.
He has no soul.
No, well, there's that, or I have a lot of them. But I've avoided the sun for like 40 years almost. Like I'm just lathered in sun, like SPF 150.
No
so, and that is I am of the age when Comedy Central was all stand up all the time when I was a kid, and my parents were kind of bad. They just didn't give a shit. I always grew up with cable. I had cable in my room from like elementary school on, and they didn't give a shit. Right.
Consume all kinds of shit.
That I wasn't supposed to. So all of those like Dana Carvey,
George Carlin.
Well, so Carlin was so those were the things that would be on HBO that my parents wouldn't let me watch. I can remember specifically my parents not letting me watch the Eddie Murphy Raw special.
Dude, that one's so bad, but it's so good.
Right. Yeah. And so
I was like 19 when I saw it, and I still was
it's like oof. Right. And then he's back in the news at 55 million for this.
Is that what he? I heard a lot of people talking about Eddie Murphy's new special that he's working on, and there's like, I listened to a lot of comedian podcasts, and there's some different perspectives on it. Like maybe he's out of touch, maybe he won't be what he once was. But I'm super interested to see. But 55 mil, damn.
Yeah, so he hasn't done it in I don't know the exact numbers, 20 or 30 years, but it's been right. So I haven't seen the episode, but I guess he was on the Comedians in Cars with Jerry Seinfeld, and he was talking about the reason he didn't do it for all those years was because he was afraid he didn't have anything to say anymore. And this is all coming third party. Granted, I have not seen that episode, but you could tell from the way I was getting that was he had a little bit of self-doubt, and he was unsure of those same things because he's been out of it for so long. Is he going to be able to do it? Whatever. Netflix paid him $55 million to do this special.
That's the encouragement he needed.
Well, and also I was laughing because it makes up for all those years he didn't. He just got paid probably what he could have made in 30 years.
That's a great point.
It's hard to be a comedian nowadays too, because everything's criticized so harshly.
Oh, for sure. So
especially comedy right now.
So you say it's hard, but I feel like to that degree it is. But I feel like there's like this great resurgence in comedy right now, almost like a renaissance with the Netflix specials.
That's true.
Amazon Prime.
And the negative PR stuff could just be a fallout from that. Anytime
there is more eyeballs on it right now for sure, and I think the Netflix is opening it up to this college kid generation right now. The trick is getting that to translate to live comedy shows, right? So the scary thing, there's always going to be a market for live comedy, but you can go watch so many good things on Netflix. Why go out and see somebody else? But also it's an experience to go out and see live comedy that is so different than what's on Netflix that once people come out, they understand what the difference is.
Same thing like with music. If you see it live, you connect on a different level.
Well, 100%. And right now, I like comedy clubs have to figure out how to get those people out, or they're going to go by way of music sales and CDs for when streaming happened. It's going to pass them by if they don't figure out how to, whether it be instead of paying for every show, you buy a membership at a club and you can come
Yeah.
anytime you want.
Yeah.
And then you still have to pay for drinks and stuff when you get there, and special events you may still have to buy a little more or whatever.
I think that's a testament to like a bigger theme of this dichotomy of like this generation is isolating itself because of the internet, but also like there's still a push to try and fight that mentality right now.
Oh, 100. So my daughter is 15, or she's going to be 15 in October. And so all summer long, I know.
Mine are 10.
It's insane.
I have two 10-year-olds and a 6-year-old boy.
So two 10-year-old girls, were they twins then?
No, mine's from
okay.
The other one's my girlfriend's, yeah. But yeah, we're on the verge of this.
Yeah. So far, I'll be honest. I'm very lucky. She's very much one of those kids that is like, she comes home and is like, Dad, these kids,
they're idiots.
like that.
They're all idiots.
Right. And so she's very, I get worried that she is just awful to people at school because she doesn't care. Like, she's going to do what she wants to do, and she's not going to let. And so I'm very happy.
That's
about
a great mentality when you're 30.
Yeah,
it's really hard when you're 16.
Yeah, well, and that's what I told her. Ever since she was, because I was very guilty of doing it the other way. I did not do any clubs or go out for it because the only thing I thought was cool was sports. So I didn't want. I was a dick. My dad was a master welder, and I thought he was a grease monkey. I didn't want to. I never went out there and learned. I didn't care. I thought I was above that shit. Now I would strangle a baby to be able to weld.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so there's all like I was just so dumb. I didn't know who I was in high school. I didn't try things to figure out what I liked.
It's a hard place to learn who you are.
It is. And so because I was always so self-conscious, especially growing up as a short ginger. I was always, that's why I have a sense of humor, because I was always deflecting.
It's almost like a self-protecting
mechanism. I'm going to make the joke before you can.
Yes.
And then you can't. Right.
Okay. So like Bobby
self-deprecating humor is easily my favorite.
Right. Too. So that's what I've always told my kid is like school is like this much people that are this is an audio medium, but like I'm just up there. But anyway, school is a very short amount of your life, and the rest of your life is this much. So you can either have a very fun time for a few years and be super cool and do what everybody else wants to do, and then or you can maybe deal with some rough patches for a few years and then do whatever the hell you want the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so far she's hung on to that, and that's my best move so far.
That's the most rewarding thing as a parent, is knowing that they have all the tools they need to succeed.
Yeah.
Whatever success means to you or to them, just making sure that they can do that on their own. And
it's such a mind, like it is. Parenting is like planning time capsules. You make a decision, and then like 20 years later, it pans out. Like, I don't know what effect having Law and Order SVU on in the background is going to have on my daughter.
Cable
at
9.
Like, like I don't know.
I remember when my daughter was born, the first time I picked her up, I was like just completely overwhelmed. If you've ever had kids, it's the most exhausting, overwhelming experience, but it's also the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, the dad worked so hard that day. So
it's just stressful. I was just anxious for like 9 months straight.
Oh
yeah,
sure.
Can't do shit. But I remember picking her up for the first time, and the whole time I'm like, wow, for the next 20-25 years, every decision she makes is immediately the result of something that I did or didn't do.
Yep.
And it's nice. I mean, I love being a parent, but it is daunting. Shit. That is intimidating.
So I know you had kind of mentioned like it was so comedy, you would make the joke before somebody else has. And I've heard a lot of comedians talk about how a lot of them are actually introverted, or they would use that same technique. Like, I'm a big fan of Bobby Lee, and I listened to his podcast, and he said like what he learned one time, he went on a show and they just tore him apart and made fun of him, and ever since then he kind of, it's almost like if you've seen 8 Mile when Eminem says all the shit about him, and they put it all on the table and nothing else can be
right. Yes, you take everything away. It really is taking the power back on some, taking the control back on some words or whatever the case is. If I can say it it takes it away from you, and it's no longer cutting and mean for everybody. It's haha,
Then
look
it's
at
a
this.
joke, yeah.
Right.
And I feel like when I see somebody that can have a sense of humor about themselves too, and it's not so stiff, it's just
You have more. I have more respect for
Right.
people like that. That
I-
can,
Oh,
that can
yeah.
see a
Abs-
situation, outside of just
From
their
perspective, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's a hard thing to do. I think a lot of people miss that.
Are you a big? I would imagine. As you said, you grew up watching the Comedy Central stand-ups. Kind of. Do you have any major comedic influences? Who you really like? Who specifically you grew up on, or even present day comedians that you really enjoy watching? Is there?
Yeah. So people like I work kind of in the middle as far as clean and dirty. I do
Right.
a fair amount of clean, like PG-13 shows, but that's not all of my material.
Sure.
And on those shows, I have to change words from the way I normally
Tone it
do.
down,
Right.
yeah.
I
show
think
your
that's
audience
almost a
some-
harder art.
Oh
'Cause
no,
isn't
it's way
is it-
beyond harder, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
the
'cause it's easy to tell a dirty
it's easy
joke
to
and
just
laugh.
be
it's
raunchy,
it's
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a crutch,
It's a cheap
right?
laugh.
For some, yes, exactly. And so that is more impressive to me. And the most impressive thing is when you can watch somebody's hour special and be like, at the end, they didn't cuss, like you didn't even realize and you're like, oh yeah, I guess
It
they
wasn't
are clean,
coerced.
right?
I've
You
watched
didn't
a lot
realize
of the dry bar stand-ups like
they
that, and
those
they're-
are all
they're-
so those
they're all
are
clean.
so that is in Utah.
Yes.
And it has to be like Mormon church clean. They have to
Oh, wow.
approve.
Dudes are
Yeah.
super funny.
Well, and they have to approve all material before.
Wow.
Like they will tell you what you can
Wow.
and can't do.
That's got to be intimidating too. To come
It
into
is,
something
but
like
then
that.
also it's nice because I do some of these PG-13 shows, and they're for booking agencies or
Mhm.
for a specific booker, and you never want to PG-13. Like technically, I guess if you look up the rules on TV, that means you
Right,
can say
you can say that.
shit like one time. Or,
Yeah.
like there's all these weird rules. You never really know what does this person
Yeah.
think clean means.
Mhm.
And then I've had people send me a list. I'll try to find the thing and post it, but to my Instagram. But it is words that I could not say for a gig, and it said, "Do not say like fuck, piss, cunt, shit." And, like,
The
and
list
it
of
was,
no-nos.
yeah, it
I'm
did.
sure
It
there's
really
some
did.
interesting words that you wouldn't expect on there, even maybe.
Yeah, well, and then somebody told me early on, as far as the way, because I knew early on I wanted to work in the comedy clubs. I wanted to be, the first way you get in is an MC.
Right.
So on a normal weekend show, you have an MC, which is typically 15 minutes, 10 to 15, a feature, which is 20 to 30, and then a headliner is 45 to 60 or more, or whatever they want to do. But you've got those three people, and the host is expected to work clean. So especially when I first started, everything I was writing was MC host clean.
Oh yeah. So you're
because I was
tons of material
trying
for that,
to
yeah.
build up to
You
that.
knew the path. You saw your vision and said,
Right,
"I
when I started looking up open mic information, I took a job as an usher at a comedy club,
Mhm.
worked
Okay,
part-time
yeah, just
there
to get a feel
nights,
for
and
things,
met,
yeah.
I've
I
heard-
met local comics. I found out because in my head, people, when you don't know, if you're not in
the network,
you don't know that there's comedy, there's open mics all over at
Yeah.
bars and these shows, and there's independent comedy, and there's just so many options. But if you don't know that, you just know the two clubs that are in town
Yeah.
or whatever.
And the comedy scene in India is very quiet.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know about that.
I mean, like what you're saying, like
Yes.
bars and stuff. If you don't live in Fountain Square, or you don't live in Broad
Yes.
Ripple, and you're not familiar with all these local places, it is tricky to find sometimes.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Other than like you're saying,
Right.
these big
And once you
comedy
know,
clubs,
yeah, and
Crackers
so that's where
Helium
right, and
places.
so that's where that's what that's why that's where people go for their first times usually, and it was very beneficial. But I was always trying to work clean, especially at first, and it is. What I was told was you have to work clean out of the MC spot, because if the headliner is clean, the people that are there to see a
Clean
clean
comedy.
comedy.
for sure.
Yeah.
But it's even more important to be clean if the headliner is dirty.
So you get that
because
contrast.
well, no, it's because if I go up there and I'm like, fuck these cunts,
Yeah.
that takes
take
away
all
the shock value.
yeah.
Exactly. You're
Yeah,
taking
that's
away
true.
the shock value for the headliner. Your job as an MC is not the first GM that hired me at my home club told me, he's like, I don't even pay attention to if you're funny, really, until I'm ready to bump you up to a feature.
Mm.
He's
Wow.
like, it's all about Can you bring the energy? Can you deliver these announcements?
You're a hype man at that point.
Can you get the show? Can you get the people ready to laugh? Because that's typically the hardest thing is the MC. Come out to a cold audience, do announcements, and then be like, haha, here I'm just also doing jokes.
You're their first interaction.
Right. And so your whole job is you've got 10 to 15 minutes just to get them ready to laugh. And if you can do that by the end, your job is technically met.
I feel like that's probably harder than doing a 30-minute.
They say, yeah. So there's two schools of thought. A host should never really be able to fuck up a show because the headliner should be good enough to get it back if nothing else, right? But the MC is generally the hardest spot on the show. The headliner has the material, they know what they're doing, but then also the audience is going to give them more leeway
to see them.
Yes, or even if they're just there to see a club, they know the guy going last is the best.
Yes. Right, like I'm much quicker to laugh at a Dave Chappelle joke than
somebody else saying the same words
I've never seen before. Right, saying the exact same joke. Exactly,
and that's also why they say people in the industry. This is all secondhand. I'm way too new in the grand scheme of things to be saying stuff, but the feature spot is generally considered the easiest because the crowd should be warmed up. They're ready to laugh by the time you come out. You're there for 30 minutes. It's a shorter amount of time. You should be able to have that many jokes if you're at that level.
Right.
And then
you've already accumulated enough.
Right. And the audience is getting drunker throughout your set. They're getting, that's a great point. By the time you're done, the headliner comes up, the audience is super primed, they're ready, and then the headliner gets out of there within 90 minutes. The show is a 90-minute show in convention because people start getting bored after so long. And that's why
we've done that, talked about that with the podcast too. It's hard to grab someone's attention for 2 hours,
certainly
3 hours.
Yeah, we try not to go over an hour and a half. That would be maximum. There is a sweet spot, and to manage somebody's attention. I was thinking when I was hearing you talk about the comedy clubs, and earlier we mentioned everything kind of shifting to Netflix or these comedy specials that people can consume on streaming services. Do you think the comedy club scene will survive kind of through and continue to thrive? Because I think there's something super special about the comedy club scene. It's a very personal experience when it's really just a tight room and you're all in there together. It's a very personal experience that you don't get through a television. So I think because of that, it's necessary to kind of have those clubs and those scenes.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it will always be there. The question is how many clubs in a city can be supported, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think live entertainment in general.
100%. So that's it. Somebody will come in and somebody will have a good idea. Somebody will open up a new club. Somebody will put the money in behind to bring in enough people that people know that they will show up to see. So there's always going to be live comedy and it will survive because it is so unique and different. But it's just a matter of how are they going to capitalize, and then are we right now in the middle of an upswing and a low swing and a dead spot? Because if you look over the last 40 years, you hear the comedy boom of the late 80s where you didn't even have to be funny.
Right.
You were just, people with shticks and gimmicks could go on and make a shit ton of money doing clubs because there was just so much money out there.
Yeah.
Because there was 100%.
People just had excess funds to do bullshit with.
Right. And that
so you capture fans that wouldn't normally go out of their way.
Exactly. And then so ideally the people that have disposable, it's like marketing and advertising and anything. The people that have disposable income are the people disposable income and still going out are the people in their 30s to 50s. That's why that demographic, they're
financially a little more stable.
Right. And then the people that are really vocal and doing stuff in that young generation, that's why they're important, because it kind of moves in the new things, what's going to be showing you kind of what, and then
what apps take
right, exactly.
Which jokes hit,
but then eventually those kids are going to get old, and then so that's when you see things come back in style, in and out.
The 90s, I like.
Yes,
the 90s is in right now.
Oh yeah,
it's nostalgic for me because I was a 90s kid, and like there's those cycles where
I bought my daughter high-waisted, stone-washed overall shorts, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, all our kids wear Vans now. I've never been prouder.
So showed because it's a cyclical fashion thing, and this is the first for me. The first thing I lived through, fashion trend I lived through that has came back is like a retro. It's for mom. I remember when bell bottoms came back, and my mom was like, "This is stupid."
Yeah.
Why?
Right. And I showed Jinkos to my daughter.
Jinkos.
And they're like short. If you don't know, Jinkos were this thing from the 90s that were like bucket sized openings at the bottom, like 40-inch
like
ankles.
Pants for 4 people at the bottom.
The Juggalos.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it turned into eventually.
And, but I showed her a picture of him, and she goes, "Oh, cool!" And I was like, "No,
No, there were
So those will come back now. Like that's gonna happen at some point.
That and yo-yos.
Oh, Zima's back, and I couldn't be happier.
Zima and Smirnoff Ice.
I would go Zima and like a Jolly Rancher in there.
That's
it is good. Well, yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a Zima.
Really?
Is it like a?
They quit selling them in like 04.
It's not a.
About right when I quit drinking.
It's like it's flavored.
Is it like the White Claw of the day?
It's better.
Yeah, it's very much. Yes,
it's better than White Claw.
It was
sweeter.
more. Yeah, well,
White
it
Claws
was.
Are going off.
People love White Claw right
there
now.
actually is a shortage. I saw that the other day.
People are losing
like
their
some
shit
Popeyes,
over it.
Popeyes chicken shit.
Yeah, I mean it's just
hate
booze and water.
So like I've tried LaCroix. People freak out about LaCroix. I just
don't. Fucking worst.
If I can't pronounce it, I really don't want to drink it either.
Dude, I hate LaCroix. Dude, yeah.
I've heard so many different pronunciations of that word.
It's LaCroix.
It's
LaCroix.
It's just I wasn't a fan. So how long have you been doing stand up?
It'd be in between 3.5, 4 years, somewhere in there.
That's not that long.
No,
it's not.
That's why I said earlier. I'm still a baby in the grand sense. I got very lucky. I got like I said, I took that job as an usher there.
Yep.
I met a lot of comics. I made friends. I knew the staff at the comedy club. Even after I left, I was welcome there. Like I got opportunities that I should that it was too early. I think now in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't ready for that, but they believed in me and I stuck with it. Fire. Right. And so now for me, I'm at the point now where I am trying to work hard enough to justify the opportunities that I like. I'm always feel like I've not.
Have you ever thought about going out to LA?
So yeah, my daughter lives with me full time. She's a freshman this year. I think New York is my plan when she goes to college.
That's a big.
I'll have like 7 to 8 years in at that point.
Two meccas to go there. I mean, I've heard tons of comedians like the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory. There's just that whole strip where
it's just
kind of like how you mentioned with Atlanta. Like you can find
those two are in a league of their own. And then
that's a whole different world to go from the shift where you're competing for attention with viewers to you're competing for attention with other comedians.
I'm gonna turn the AC up real quick.
That's gotta be a different shift too.
Oh yeah. And then it's starting over. That's the thing. Like,
see,
there's a big it's a big decision for people. Like once you really decide you want to start doing this,
right, committing to it,
right, and you're in the Midwest, do you stay here,
right,
get good, and then go somewhere and start all over again, or do you go somewhere,
take that leap early,
and just get good there?
Yeah.
And it'll take longer and it'll be harder, and you're doing it 5 or 3 minutes at a time in New York. We're here. You start getting those opportunities more in the Midwest. I talked to somebody at a comedy festival one time that was from New York, and they were like, I respect the Midwest. I don't remember, but they were saying Midwest comics will have a 30-minute set. He's like, I don't have a 30-minute set. Right. I have 7 5-minute sets, or what, you know what I mean?
Because that's
right, because he's never right. There's just so many. It's very hard to get long times in those cities. Yeah, and so then you're doing 3 minutes at a time for 2 comics and a laundromat, and it's very hard to tell. And you're stuck in a city where it's open mics for a long time until it's either strike it big or get on the road. Where in the Midwest here, I like it because in 2 hours I can get to Dayton, which is a great city, Cincinnati, Louisville. I go 3 hours, 3.5. I'm in Chicago. 5. I'm in Detroit, St. Louis, Nashville. 8, I'm down to Atlanta. Like
That's true.
there's years.
You're pretty well networked there. The
Right.
crossroads of comedy.
It really is. You know,
Yeah.
you hop on in like 6 hours. You're
So you're what, 35?
38 right now.
I mean,
yeah.
when you start comedy, you were
Oh yes,
30.
35.
That's
I
not,
think, yeah.
So I just changed career paths. I'm 30. I'll be 31 here pretty soon. And that was tough to completely throw away, you know, all this time and effort you put into one thing to shift to something else, especially if it's something.
Yeah, I didn't put a lot of
different or
time
even
into
unsure, you know.
anything before. So I was very much
Bouncing.
bouncing around. I
Yeah.
never, this is the first thing I've ever been good at that I liked.
Yeah.
Everything else I never found, and I haven't found a balance of fun and money still.
Right.
But that was my problem before. All of my jobs were either very fun and paid nothing, like radio when I was in radio, or they paid well and I hated every second when I was a union electrician.
Yeah.
I would go sleep in a portalet for like 30 minutes. I would
Hell yeah.
like, that's how
Man.
much I hated my job. So I would just go sit in a fucking construction
I do
site.
lunch naps.
Yeah.
Lunch naps. I keep a pillow in my car, bro.
Shit, yeah.
Been there. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it every day.
Just something to break up and not
That's my life.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I hated every bit of
Working
it.
a real job is
No, it's
awful.
the fucking worst.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
for
awful
terrible people.
about
I mean,
it.
as a comedian, in a sense, you're your own boss. I mean, I know you will work at a club, but you control, like, you know, I will do this show if
It's
this
scary not knowing when you're going to get paid next.
Has to be,
right?
right.
Yeah, that's the
Especially
big
with
thing.
kids,
It's a
such
trade-off.
Yeah,
right?
fuck them.
They'll
No,
figure
but
it out.
he goes, yeah, she's going to enjoy the University of Phoenix.
There you
So-
go.
No, I mean, it is hard, you know, with there's just not a lot of money.
Uncertainty.
Yeah.
And everybody wants that certainty, you know, that retirement fund. But
Well, it's been drilled into
when-
our heads since we were little
Yeah,
kids. You
this
want
is
all
what
the
you're
stability you
supposed to
can
do.
get.
Right.
Yeah, it's two schools of thought, right? I started at 35, so I had a little bit. I had flunked out of college a couple times. I took a bunch of acid and went to Jamaica in the middle of the night one time. I had a kid.
That's a good story.
You know what I mean? Like, I had a life. I had stories when I started. I was done drinking at that point. I was done being an ass. If I would have been in the comedy clubs when I was 21 and getting
It's
pissed
totally
drunk,
different,
bellied up
yeah.
in the bar, I would have burned bridges. I wouldn't have had anything to talk about except for dick and weed jokes and like right. So there's that.
You have no
But then-
culture at that point.
And then also, if you're 25 or you're 20, you can do it for 5, 6, 7 years. But at some point, you're like, oh shit,
I need to make
I
money.
need to start my
Yeah.
life. At
Yeah.
35, you're like, yeah, but this shit sucks.
Yes.
I'm just gonna if I can just sustain life and do
Yes.
this, then
Yep.
I'm in.
It's already better.
Eventually,
Right.
you're getting
Yes.
to the same
Yeah.
end point, right?
Right.
It's just two different paths.
Yeah.
the
my-
value,
yeah,
your
eventually-
system of values.
You'll figure it out
Yeah,
one way or another.
right. Either way, your 401k is a scratch off ticket,
Shit
right?
sucks.
So,
Lunch naps are fucking. They suck.
mhm.
Um.
I would sit on a bucket behind fucking like big Metal Gear boxes and shit, just hide and sleep for days.
in the fucking cold.
All up on top of a pipe rack in Eli Lilly, and sleep for like 4 hours. I
Yeah,
was the
dude.
worst, man.
Yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of there used to be this bathroom at my old job that was like kind of isolated. Like not many people got to use this bathroom, but when you went through the first door, there was another door that would lock because there was a shower in there.
Ah,
So I would go in there, I would lock it, I would turn the shower on like somebody was showering in there. I would lay a couple towels down, I'd grab a couple rolls of toilet paper, lay my head on them, and I just nap the fuck out in there. Dude.
hell yeah.
I even found a way to eventually. My old employer would love this. Fuck them. Not working there, but I would eventually found a way to like forward my phone, my office phone, to my cell phone, so I
Oh,
would never be at my,
yeah.
until like the rats are like Ben's not at his desk.
Ben's
like,
taking 3-hour
Ben's
lunch
taking
breaks.
3-hour breaks.
We don't get those
This-
'Cause
breaks.
there's like
Yeah.
always those
Oh,
hall monitor
And then
people.
then
fucking worst.
they are the
Office
worst.
drama
But then
sucks.
also like those people were complaining so much at home about you.
Oh,
They
God.
were coming home for like 2 months, like this motherfucker
That's the
Ben.
most gratifying
Yes.
thing to think about. Though.
Yeah,
You're
it's like
I hope
you're
that
in their
fucking.
head.
I hope your husband knows my name.
Yeah,
goddammit.
yeah, he does.
That's so real, dude. There was this one lady, and I just have her in my mind now, and I know you're exactly right. She went home to her husband, like, guess what he did today?
Young ass punk ass kid.
Dude, she would tell
I
my-
know he's forwarding his fucking phone. I know that's what he's
Yes.
doing.
No,
She's
she
probably
did.
smoking dope in the
She
bathroom.
eventually like caught me, but she would tell my boss if I was like late, because sometimes I'd be a little late, and I found out how to like hotspot my phone, and I would turn my laptop on and I'd log in on my phone while I was still driving and shit.
It
But she
is
was
amazing how much work you will put into not
To
work.
not
Right, like
work.
that's
Right.
the guy I want to promote, though, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
want
The
that. Like, if you
MacGyver
can figure
of-
out how to do it from the bathroom,
Yes,
That's the
that's
dude I
a
want
fit.
working
You
for
just
me.
saved me money.
I was
man.
creative as fuck. I was like, dude, just let me work at home. You know,
I figured out how to do it myself. You think
Yeah.
I'm there? I'm here.
that's the critical thinking we need in our
Yeah.
economy.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. As a comedian though, you do have to deal with some bullshit at times, right? If you're some of the outrage culture, like Dave Chappelle just went through this.
Oh yeah,
And
you have to be aware of that. I
Right?
think we were talking about it this weekend. People sometimes, and I don't like when people are like, oh fuck these millennials and all that stuff, but it is younger people generally, and also generally white people
Everyone's
that we get offended
victim.
for everybody else, but
Yeah.
also it's people hear the subject of what you're talking about and not the words that you're saying.
That's
Because not they hear the subject and not the words of the message, because people will hear one thing and be like, you can't do that, and you're like, well, the joke wasn't about that, it was about me being fat and having a small dick, right? You know, like something like that. Like, and so I have my first college gig this week. On Wednesday, I'm at the University of Kentucky.
Tough crowd.
Yeah, you really do second guess what can I say.
Yeah.
I think there's two approaches. You're either very conscious of what you say, or you just throw caution to the wind. You're like, fuck it.
Yes,
Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
I've heard comedians like Chris D'Elia like say like, I won't do universities
A lot of
anymore.
people
I mean,
will, yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously he can say that with the level
Sure.
that he's at, but you know, it goes to the point you're saying of like the younger
That's
kids,
a critical
man. Like,
crowd, yeah.
I feel like everybody is waiting to be offended by something, and this is stand-up comedy. Like, you're signing up to go see comedy, and you have to take it for what it is. You know, it's not personal. It's fucking comedy at the end of the day.
And I'll give you some people do just have not 2019 jokes. People haven't updated a joke and it's still, you hear a word and that's fine. I watch, like my daughter's watching Friends the first time, and there's some episodes.
Oh yeah.
The whole plot is just Chandler's not gay. Like that's the whole thing. And you're like, like
It's
you
not funny
see something,
anymore.
right? But like that doesn't mean you burn the whole show down to the
Right.
ground, right? So it is just very much like there is some of that. And then also, if somebody goes out to an open mic, I'm going to give you a little more leeway. You might get offended there. Somebody might be doing something pretty awful that's not even funny, but
or it's funny in their circle,
right? And then, but on the weekends, if you're going to a club and you're paying money, that part you should. We talked about giving people the benefit of the doubt. There should be some of that. The comic should also be aware. It's those two schools of thought on, are you gonna be aware of what's happening and change, or are you just gonna try to browbeat people into not caring, so you have to kind of walk that line and find out what kind of comic you are or want to be.
Well, particularly for open mics though, like we mentioned this earlier, like as a comedian, that's your in the garage with the guitar, like that's you're working on material, right?
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that, unless you're an avid consumer of comedy. Like if you're seeing a comedian at an open mic, they're going to try things that they wouldn't necessarily try as a headliner. Their work material, maybe they're changing bits around a little bit, so it's not a fine-tuned process yet. You have to understand that.
I think
it's not
like
refined completely.
I see a lot of like similarities, and because I do sales, and it's really similar. You try out different sales techniques, you talk to people different way, and you gauge their reaction and move and flow with that conversation.
Yes.
And that's probably a lot of it. You're pitching jokes that you've written, maybe if I do it this way.
Well, and then there's also the thing, like when I first started, everybody's guilty of it. And I hear people like I said, I'm still new. I understand that. And when I started, I would do things now that I look back on and I think, oh God, you fucking asshole. And like, right. Or like I thought things like one of the funniest things I've ever seen on a post, like Inside Baseball comedy thing, is a comment posted one time. I just hope to one day be as good at comedy as I thought I was 2 years in. And I was 2 years in when I read that and it was like, yup, that is because
totally relatable.
Yeah, because you do. like once you start consistently being able to figure out how to get laughs, you're like, oh, I'm fucking
I'm on
right.
it. I'm killing it.
But then hopefully in a year you look back at what you were getting a laugh with, and that your definition of what a good laugh is has changed.
Right. Your whole thing has evolved.
Yeah.
We've talked about that with the podcast too. And I didn't realize because we had never done anything like this when we started, but just formatting a conversation was the most foreign thing. And if you watch like good comedy, because that's, most of us are sample, if you're not a comedian, your sample is a Netflix special.
Right.
If you watch Dave Chappelle, it looks fucking easy.
Yeah.
Because he's been doing it for
3 decades.
Years. Yeah.
Right.
So, something like that, it's just gauging that perception.
And even just that, those words that he's saying in the special,
you can't say that shit.
Well, but also, but then he's done that act. He's been going to comedy clubs for the last 6 months to a year, trying to figure out what that is. Right. Which is why big name comics get fucking pissed when people are recording their sets.
Yeah,
because it's going out before it's ready,
it's not new.
And then it's not new. You're burning some of that material. Yeah. Somebody's already seen it before, but then also they may have caught you on the day that you were trying to do it this way instead of this way,
different order, different
and
pitch,
you did, and it was all shit, right, and then
or you were hungover, and
right, or like I've done a couple weeks ago, I did a set at on an open mic night, and they fucking hated me. They hated me, and I leaned into it, and I just kept going for it and making. Well, I was going with my most offensive shit, and I leaned into it. And there's ways I can tell that joke. I can set it up by asking. If I ask permission, I say, "Hey, you guys have seen what I do. I work pretty clean. I have some offensive jokes. If you want to hear it, I'll do it. If not, I'll move on." They always let me do it. Yeah. And then I'm like, "Here's how this is going to work. I'll just keep going until I lose you guys, and then we'll gather up." And then so I say the first line, and then I just have like 3 or 4 tags to go. And I will stop at different points wherever I've actually lost them.
Right.
And then I'll do a follow-up joke that I say is going to be clean and is actually even dirtier. So then that's what breaks him and brings him back. And it'll work if I do it with that setup most of the time.
Right.
Right.
Not every time though.
Nah, but it's honestly pretty close to
proven system.
Not proven. It's not a bulletproof by any stretch of the imagination, but telling it that way, I have a chance to do it and then laugh. And I've had people come up to me after and be like, "That was my favorite joke." I did it with just doing it without setting it up, just doing the joke,
just throwing it
and
on
then
them.
So like I said, I had those tags, and so I would say it, and they knew they were going to keep getting worse. This time they didn't. So every time they were like, "This is awful," and then I'm like, "No, this is worse," and they're like, "Oh, that was worse." And so they fucking hated it. And so they just hated every word of that, right? And it was it comes. I had no chance for anybody to laugh at it that way. The other way, at least there's a chance that people get what they knew what they were getting, and then they expected it. It's not just blindside, smack you in the face with it. Yeah.
Have you ever every comedian's bombed, right? Have you ever had something where you're just like, "Fuck, I'm not gonna recover from," just a really bad bomb that you were
the very first show I ever did for this one booking agency. So I had a lot of pressure that I was doing that. A friend was taking me, so I always feel pressure to not make them look bad. And then it's like when you recommend somebody for a job and then they suck. Right. Yeah. So there was some of that. And then it was my first casino show. And it was also, I was very new. I'd probably done feature length, a 30-minute set, like 2 or 3 times at that point. So it was very new, but it was the first time I had ever host featured. So it came up to a cold room, and we were talking about how that's the hardest part.
And then just lay down.
And then you have to just start. And then, so I didn't do any crowd warm up. I just went straight into my material. It never really caught on. It was a casino, free show in a casino. So there was like 12 people.
And bullshit.
Well, no, it was separated off into a bar, but it was 12 or so people, and
senior
then
citizens.
People would run in, but nobody was leaving a winning table to come watch a free comedy show. So everybody that was in that room had either lost money, was taking a break from losing money, or had lost all of their money and was waiting for their friend that still has luck out there. So they were all pissy. And then
Yeah.
I was like, hey, mustache. And they were having none of it. It's one of the few times I've ever been heckled.
Oh God.
And it was a town in if there's other comics that are listening, they're gonna laugh because it's a casino that when I tell people this, they laugh when I tell them where it was because it's a notoriously shitty gig. But it's in a town in like the UP of Michigan that is spelled SAULT, but it's said Sioux. And so it's Saul. It's spelled like it should say Saul Saint Marie, but it's Sioux Saint Marie.
Okay.
And I mispronounced the word. I mispronounced it down to the people, and they were like, blah, 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 blah. And I go, this was like 20 minutes in, it's going bad, and I was like, and then I mispronounced her name, and it got even worse. And I was like, you know what? This place sucks anyway. Indianapolis is. I was like, Indianapolis is better, and they were like, blah, blah, blah. So I just created a rivalry.
Yeah.
And then, but the worst part about that, and what I didn't think about, and my buddy that I took fucking loves this story because his intro is from Indianapolis. That's all he gets introduced by because he doesn't have any big TV credits.
Now
or
you
anything.
just set him
and
up.
and so as soon as I introduced him, they were all like, "Boo!
Fucking Indianapolis.
Fucking Indianapolis."
You could have changed it. You should have said from
Yes.
Detroit, Michigan.
Right? Yes, I should have, but I was not having a good day.
I mean, it's a good story now, right?
And then he came up and called the guy that was heckling me fat pitbull, and the whole crowd broke. And then he had a good show, and I was like,
able to break them down.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I almost
By talking about how shitty I did. He
Oh,
addressed.
you were
he
the-
addressed.
right
Well,
now.
not really. He put it on that guy for heckling me and for breaking me, and he's like, that guy's funny, and you guys just broke him. And like they laughed because that is what happened, and they saw it. And he was like, "Fat pitbull over here," and then they all started laughing at that.
He got them all on his.
And so I just didn't know how to handle any of
I
that.
would almost look forward to being heckled. Like at that. That's the point when you're just like,
There's some funny YouTube videos of comedians just slamming
Yeah, there's
hecklers.
a
Like,
comedian, Steve Hofstetter, that's known for kind of
just.
I don't know if he
tearing
baits
into it,
them or if he just records everything or what, or I think maybe even he, I don't know if it's him, but I've heard there's one person that opens up at the end of their show and is like, look, you know, this is your chance to yell shit at me.
Oh, really?
And like gives them the
get it
chance to, get it out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I apologize. I don't know if that's him or not,
Yeah.
but I know that is somebody that does that. And that is just inviting it in and
It's a
then
whole
giving it
nother
all back.
genre of comedy,
It's a whole,
that
like that crowd
conversational
work.
comedy.
Yes. Crowd work. People are insane.
yeah. You know, I've been thinking about with crowd work, you can't really write, you know.
Yeah, you can. That's the
can?
trick. That's
So
the
you
trick to
can.
good is the trick to good crowd work
Do you
is
pick-
being prepared
Mm.
and asking leading questions.
Okay.
And
That you
asking questions.
expect an answer.
You
for
expect an
generally.
answer. I was talking to somebody this weekend that had written
It's
That's
like
a great-
coercing a confession.
great
right. So
point.
he said his bit was that he could tell what kind of sexual kinks somebody had by the cereal they ate. And he went through and wrote a joke for every
Fruit
brand of
Loops.
cereal.
Oh yes,
So
Right.
He's
boom.
prepared.
So
with a
he had
response.
and
It's
so
genius.
they are yelling things out thinking it's on the spot, and he's
That's
back
genius.
with right. So and
It
then
feels
there's
impulsive.
right, and then it's stand-up comedy largely is recreated spontaneity.
Yeah.
I will stumble into something on accident sometimes
Mm.
and then do it forever
Forever,
after
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard a comedian talk about how, so that's a great point. I didn't
I
think
mean,
of
that's
the
basically
writing.
what a setup is for a joke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're
Setting
synthesizing
up the
that
crowd.
vibe.
And he mentioned like how he would ask a question and it would be about, he's an Asian comedian. He would ask like, you know, what kind of Asian are you? But they would, sometimes he'd get a response that he wasn't ready for. And they'd be like, human, you know,
Right.
instead of like,
Yeah.
and then like, fuck, it totally ruins the,
Yeah.
but you should be prepared for that.
yeah,
even,
yeah, you
after
should
that,
have a way out
of
of
all your setups.
right. Or you should the one thing that I was told early on, or that you'll read in like books about like writing stand up, is never ask a question that you really want an answer to.
Yeah.
Mm.
You're asking a question to go into something generally.
Hmm.
And if you really want to, and the whole thing is that goes back to, you don't want to be in a room and be like, who here likes video games? And there might be 10 people there that, right.
Yeah.
But, or they don't want to clap or they don't want to whatever. But they're in the room. But if you just go up there and be like, you guys like video games, we all like video games, blah blah blah, then you just it's
never thought of it.
Right.
It's a lot like sales techniques. It's very similar.
Just mind fucking people into
it's all about getting them to.
In the first time as a stand-up comic that I saw somebody that did a lot of crowd work, and I watched them do 5 shows in one weekend, and saw behind the curtain, I saw like kind of how the sausage was made, and I saw like he's asking leading questions, and he's doing different shit, and he's funny and reacting in the moment a lot of the times, and I don't know what all he wrote or not before, but the crowd doesn't know either.
Right.
But he's asking questions in a way that he's getting to the same things throughout the week.
His punchline.
Right. He's getting there.
Wow.
And then when he asks a question and gets in a response that's new, he gets to drill down on it, and then he's prepared next time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes just having that spontaneity of could maybe not only new material, but some super funny shit.
Yeah,
just like spur of the moment.
Yeah, right.
That's the funniest thing in every show is what you didn't think was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Do you go back and like listen to your
everything?
You do. So are you very critical of yourself? Or are you just looking for new opportunities? Maybe
here. 100%. So it's a process, and like I say, it's a craft, and I'm learning. I'm 4 years in, and like I said, when you're at the beginning, you think you know what you're doing, and you don't, and you write stuff. And at the beginning, I was very guilty of this. Got a laugh, it's done, and I am still not like there's stuff that I can be better about. I have jokes in my set where I use examples that I could be swapping shit out every time and that's that next phase in writing that I'm working right. Yeah. But it's hard when you're doing a paid show, or you know what I mean. You don't want to do a joke that you've been doing forever at an open mic, or you don't want to risk to do a new example on and then it's some of it's on me. I should just do it. Right. There's some of that.
Eventually, you just got to
you just have to do it. But it's that process of writing where you think something's good and done, but it's not, and you go back and then you can punch stuff up and you work on stuff and you improve stuff continuously.
Hard, especially like we've gone through that. The podcast. I am overly critical.
Yes,
especially when we first started our first 5 episodes. I listened to multiple times and I was like, man, that was fucking stupid. Why'd you say that? Or man, I wish I would have asked this question.
Somebody told me it was a club owner, my home club, after an open mic set one time. She was like, you said a lot. And I was like, okay. And I went back because I used to just do audio. Now I'll do a lot of video as well, but not all the time, but almost always at least audio. And I went back and I said, 36 times in a 5-minute set. And it became nails on a chalkboard for me. And so then I very quickly got it out of there. But what happened was I changed to so. And then I started saying so 15 times.
But we're not.
So my jokes, right?
Yeah.
But it was it was a tech.
We've all been trained.
And then I was doing so is like the end of every joke. I would be like, I would be like, handlebar mustache tends to attract a certain type of woman, and that somebody's into danger sex because there's nothing more there is nothing more dangerous than being tied to a railroad track. So and I would just end it with
open-ended question.
And then 5 more jokes and I'd end it and I'd be like, so and I was like, and then so that is part of listening back. And then when I was too far in to start video, I wish I would have started sooner. Because as soon as I looked at the first video of my set, I was like, what the fuck was I doing with my arms?
Right,
they were I looked like one of those wacky waving and flying, they were everywhere doing. And the headliner that was helping me and working with me when I first started was like, just grab the mic stand. Grab the mic stand, put one hand on the mic stand, you're holding the other one. That will get you used to not doing anything with this hand. And then
I feel like you should just take the opposite approach. Just do the weirdest shit you can think of.
Yes. One time I tried to do calisthenics during a set and it bombed so fucking hard. I had an idea where I had seen a new workout
Richard
routine.
Simmons up here.
Yeah, it was a workout routine for stay-at-home moms.
Oh yeah,
and that worked.
Julie Russell.
Yes, and you worked.
Julie Michaels.
Athletic.
Yeah, that kicked my ass.
You worked your exercises into your daily routine. So, if you were going upstairs to put away clothes, you get to the top, turn around, go to the bottom, and take an extra step up. And when you're folding towels, do squats in between every towel. When you're shopping, do lunges throughout the aisle. And I'm like, that fucking is a psycho. Can you imagine?
You see some lady at Walmart
doing lunges behind the cart? Get the fuck out of here. And but it was called tasker sizing.
Yeah.
And so then my thing was I explained that and I made like a little joke about it, and then I just went into my normal set and started doing squats and like lunges and arm lifts, and it was eating shit, and I had to do it for 4 more minutes.
It's like shit. I'm not even to the fucking lunges yet.
Right, and then I was
squats right now.
I know, and it just wasn't funny.
If I was like that, I'd almost like just have to be like, you know what, fuck this. Let's just switch. It's hard to grind that out, I would imagine, if you like know, like if you don't.
Oh yeah, you had, well,
like,
so
fuck, I gotta really grind this one out.
Because in my head, I was hoping it was going to be one of those things that is not funny and then gets funny and then is unfunny and then is super fucking funny. Yeah. In my head, that's what it was. So Kristen Schaal, if you know who that is, she does like Louise on Bob's Burgers.
Oh yeah,
and so or she was the wife in Last Man on Earth, and she's great.
Hilarious.
She's hilarious. So her and another guy have like they play music together in this like duo they did, and the song was Kristen Schaal is a horse. And people should look this up. It's fucking hilarious. She looks up. It's just a song he's playing. He's like, Kristen Schaal is a horse, and she's like galloping around in a circle while he sits on a chair playing the song, and that's it.
That's it. That's the whole thing.
And they just do it, and at first it's not funny, and then it gets funny, and they keep going so
like,
long it's unfunny, and then it gets super fucking funny. So yeah, so it's one of those things like times 1 through 3, 4 through 6, funny. 7 through 14, what is happening?
This guy's mentally
15 this is fucking insane. That's awesome. And I've heard they did that for a full 30 minutes one time and walked like an entire theater.
Like painful eye contact with someone.
Getting on an elevator and standing the wrong way on an elevator.
Oh my
God,
something. People lose their fucking mind. I saw a social experiment with that. It was really funny.
I had another question I was thinking about. You hear about joke stealing. Is that something that actually is that a prominent thing in comedy? Is that something that
you don't see it? You don't see it in your scene because you see the same people everywhere, so you can't steal from your. You know what I mean?
You would instantly be.
Right. And then some people you'll see. I've seen. I am not good about remembering word for word bits from somebody's special, but I've been at an open mic and somebody was crushing, and
you've like
a comic sitting next to me goes, "That's Richard Pryor."
He's like,
okay, right, or somebody says a street joke or something on there. You know what I mean? Like you see stuff like that. I am sure it happens prominently for people that are like on the road all the time and see an open micer that makes a good joke, and then they can go do it somewhere, right?
You see it in Pittsburgh,
right? And then so I think it's out there, but you don't see it until people make a backlash on it, and then but then also there's dual thought, you know, like there's that thing. So you have to. Did I think of this on my own at the same time you did? Is this a concept and a joke that is not so out of left field that is easy to come to?
What I was gonna say and mention is
we're all consuming the same current events.
I wrote a joke that I was really excited about, and I was having fun. I did it like twice, and it worked both times. And it was like I'd ask the audience to be like, I'm a big trivia fan. I don't know if anybody in here is into trivia, but I learned recently, that jingle from the 80s, and when clap on, clap off. And then I would point, and the audience would always say the clapper, right? And then I'm like, yeah, but that wasn't the first product. Like originally, that jingle was written for something else. It originally went clap on, clap off, penicillin, right? And I Googled it after a couple times. I said, that's probably been done. I want to make sure. It was a goddamn e-card.
Oh shit!
So I had to quit doing it because I didn't. I wrote it. It was in my head. But also, if somebody has sent that e-card and they're sitting in the audience, they're gonna be like, "Oh, what is this? What this fucking guy's doing?"
See, I wouldn't consider that.
And then also, sometimes you just get paranoid that other comics are gonna be like, what
Call
is that
you
a fucking
out.
right? So, and it was an e-card,
But
so it's
Just,
been out there.
I just start
It's
telling people
go.
that you wrote the e-card.
I understand, like, you know, that you want to avoid that situation, but like, to me, I wouldn't consider it joke. You know, you
Right.
you did create that in your own mind. It would only be joke stealing if you're out there looking for, you know, you're plagiarizing.
and that's
That's
right, but,
funny.
and that's fair. And I don't know that if I did it, I would be getting called out for joke stealing as much
Sure.
as it is.
On a
What are you doing? Memes? Are we just
Right.
saying
Yeah.
memes on stage now? Like you know, maybe it's too low hanging fruit if it's been. You know,
Sure.
so that's probably what comics would look at you more for than is a joke stealing
That
in a
makes
situation
sense.
like that. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Just taking the easy laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean,
there's
at
a lot
some
of
point, you gotta
that.
do some of that, right?
Well,
gotta
absolutely. And
sprinkle
then at
that
some
in.
point you don't know that's what you're doing.
That's true.
And then there's a whole thing about reading a room, right? Like they'll be like, know the room or read the room. And that's great once you have enough time. I'm just now have enough material that I can be like, oh, they don't
Shift.
like this.
How they're
Let me
reacting.
do this. And
that's probably really hard for a startup comedian.
It's fucking so hard because if it's going,
style.
it's that thing. It starts out bad. You know they don't like it, but you don't have anything else to say. You can't change it
because you really have one mode of thinking when you start. It's like,
especially you feel like you're doing
the only
a
way I
speech.
know how to be funny,
right?
Yeah,
and so it's tough, especially at the beginning.
Learning how to evolve with your comedy is a tricky
yeah.
process.
That's I can only hope that I continue to evolve, and that's where people get stale. Is they you know, I'm still way too new, but like, let's say I was 10 years in and I had a really solid real feature act that is like club level.
They don't go beyond that.
Right. And if that's all my career ever came, that's great. I would be more than happy if I never got on TV and I could just work 40 club weekends a year,
right,
and be considered by my peers a good comic, and all that's fine. But at the same time, if I'm never move on from that and I'm writing new material and I'm just not getting on TV and that's the reason, then that's different than I haven't wrote a new set
joke,
since 2001 and I'm still doing jokes about bottled water. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like then it's like there's a fine balance between being stale and being like turnover in your set or doing what you know works. And so you can only hope that you keep working hard enough that you don't get left behind.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle. We struggle with that with the podcast.
Sure.
The marketing.
Well, and there's now 1,000 podcasts, so it's a lot harder to stand out and do something new in 2019 than it would have been in 2015 with the same podcast.
The double-edged sword of the internet.
Right. And it's the same thing. Stand-up comedy has been big for 40, 50 years now. You can't how are you different from every other comedian? You can't just do men are like this, women are like this. You can't
Here's
like
my dick.
Right.
You know?
Like that's all been done. Like you can't just hickory dickory dock.
You can't even take your damn shirt off.
Right. Well, but yeah, no. Bert's got that one a lot.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
That Russian
oh my god, that is the fucking
isn't that fucking amazing?
Dude, he is so good. Like he does evolve. His shows are so good. And I don't know if you've seen the most recent video he just came out with. Your listeners should also look this up. He just came out and he's doing like a pop and lock dance routine.
Oh yeah, I saw
and
that.
He is hitting every move like
so
crisp
confident
and hard.
Like
it looks like he is.
You can tell he did that in front of a mirror for
like
hours,
yes,
days.
no, like one of those like ballet rehearsal rooms with a wall of mirrors, and he had like a professional choreographer teaching him because he looks like a fat guy behind the Missy Elliott video. Like he is so good.
She wore his suit.
Right. Yeah. Well, they probably, but that is, he's so like, he looks like a professional dancer and it's hilarious.
Funny.
Dude, Bert's one of my favorites, and I listen to his podcast a lot. And I notice a lot of comedians, they start their podcast because it could be a way to work on your comedy, right? And a little bit, or just bantering with other people, but also it goes back to that networking. Like I've been pulled into
connection with your
absolutely.
I've been pulled into comedians that I wouldn't have ever listened to just because of podcasts. I heard them like, holy shit, this is funny as fuck, and then I go watch their comedy. It's just another way, besides
you'd
Twitter.
Like to at least think most of those people are funny all the time too, right?
Yeah.
You probably get that a lot. Like, oh, you're a comedy guy.
Tell me a joke. And that's
what's the Finding Nemo? Like, oh, it's a clownfish. Tell us a joke.
Yes, and it's so true. It is so true.
People are awful about.
Yeah, oh, yeah. But you know, it's a double-edged sword. You also kind of spill the beans a lot of the times too.
That guy,
right. So yeah.
You know, before we wrap this up, there was just a couple more things I wanted to get into with you. We do want to talk about stuff you have upcoming.
Oh yeah,
though, and you know, where people can find you. But what would you say to maybe comedians who are trying to start out? What would be maybe some advice to
do it?
Just go do it.
Like everybody is like, oh, I'm trying. Like I will get emails because I run the open mic at Crackers. It's every Tuesday. If you want to sign up, you can sign up on the website.
I've looked into it. Like the first one is like 3 minutes.
Yeah, you get 3 minutes the first time, 6 or 5 or 6 depending on what we're doing that night. Any other time after that, and there are 1,000 locations to find an open mic stage that you can talk into.
Yeah.
Just go.
Just do it.
You can sit and you can write all you want. That first time is going to be different than anything you expected. You're not going to be, maybe you do good, maybe you don't. Either way, it's so much fun and exhilarating, and it's unlike anything. You can't practice really for it. You can't prepare for it. You can be better by your background. If you have a theater background, whatever, you can come out of the gate stronger. But you just have to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good experience. Even if you're not a comedian or you don't think you're funny, that's like just a good moment to learn about yourself.
It could apply to a lot of things, public speaking, or, you know, whatever your case might be.
Understanding how you respond. Kind of
being under pressure.
Yeah. We've had people come in before that were salespeople whose bosses made them go to an open mic.
Yeah. Just to get comfortable talking to people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's smart. Dude, this was super funny podcast though. This is definitely one of my favorite ones we've done. Tell us about stuff you got coming up, maybe where you might be on the road, where people can find you, social media, just your stuff. And I think me and him are definitely gonna have to come to a show ASAP.
Yeah, we've been talking about Crackers for a long time.
Yeah, I think we'd love to have you, man. Crackers, I'm usually there like once a month. Like I said, I was just there this past weekend. On Wednesday of this week. So on 9/11, I am at the University of Kentucky featuring for one of the best comics in the country, Stuart Huff. He is fucking phenomenal. If Stuart Huff ever comes to your city, you go and you see it immediately. He's phenomenal. And then Friday and Saturday, I am in Pennsylvania. And then at the end of the month, I'm in a comedy festival outside Boston called Hootenanny Fest. And I
think I saw that on your Facebook.
Yeah, and then I think I'm back at Crackers. So I'm doing my first big, like I've been doing a lot of, like I'll do a club weekend out of town or a one-nighter out of town or 2 one-nighters in a row or something. But I'm going out for the first time for like 14 days on the road.
Wow.
And so I've got a club in Newport News, Virginia called Kazi's. The next week, I'm in that festival in Worcester, Mass, Hootenanny Fest. The week after, I'm in New York for the first time.
Killing it, dude.
And
at least you don't have to do comedy in New York on 9/11.
Oh, I know, right? Just never forget. And then I'm back at Crackers downtown Indianapolis, October 17th. That is the next time I am there.
Let me see what.
Well, that's 17th through the 19th that weekend. So Thursday to Friday and to Saturday.
I think we got to go to either the 18th or the 19th.
Yeah,
that's right. Let me know.
My wife would like to go too.
Yeah, we'll get you in for sure.
And then I've been looking for a reason to lock our kids in a closet with some food and water for a few hours.
And then I'm in Shelbyville on October 24th.
The theater right on the Strip.
It is a Capone Speakeasy in Shelbyville.
Okay.
On
that just sounds like a cool
October.
Place
that's what I with my mustache. I'm contractually obligated to be there.
Those are your people.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ride a penny farthington bike.
It's the roaring 2020s on
the It is. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm in at the Story Inn in Brown County with headliner Brent Terhune. He writes for Bob and Tom.
I've been
so that is October 25th. You can check out my social media. I always post all my shows. It's at Tony Foxworthy on all of them. I don't do much on Twitter. I should, but it's the one that I've got the least amount of followers on, so I just populate it from my Instagram. but it's at Tony Foxworthy on all of it. I'm on Facebook. I don't understand Snapchat because I'm almost 40.
Fair.
So
social media is trash.
it is. Well, and then
It's
also
beautiful, but it's
I don't have the attention, like the retention for Snapchat. I will send a message
yeah.
and then I get a reply and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, what did I
Why
ask?
are you sending this picture of a water bottle?
Right. What happened?
Send nudes.
Oh, please, for 7 seconds.
7 whole seconds.
Let me get the screenshot.
That is, I know, even if you use an old phone to take a picture of your new phone, it picks that up.
What?
Yeah,
like a picture of your
yeah, if
screen?
you take
What the
another phone or
I
a
thought that
camera
was
and
the
try to
way
take
to do it.
no,
So
it'll still
Snap-
pick it up because it picks up something
But we
the
can't
out
fix
of
a
your
fucking
front
pothole.
camera.
We'll figure
Right.
figure out.
Write
a
an
hack
app
around
to
it.
fix a pothole, we'd be in. So, and then I am in Vancouver, British Columbia, my first out of country
nice.
gig
Hell yeah.
Nice.
in November. Then that will be you mentioned earlier my farthest gig that will
That'll
be
be it.
overtaking Boston. That's the first one I'll have to fly to.
That's exciting.
So yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I
You're
have a passport.
Yeah. Take some time.
You gotta
too.
get
Oh,
the
yeah,
new
dude,
license.
I,
You gotta get the new driver's license with the star on it.
Yeah, I did do that. It was rough. I've got a speckled history of booze, DUIs, and minor consumptions and fun. I was a fun hang when I was in my 20s. So
That's why
it's always like I substitute teach now, and every time I have to renew and do a background check, I'm like, roll into that. What are we doing?
Dude, I would love you as a substitute.
It's like 10 minutes of mustache talk and then a National Geographic movie, and we're out of there.
Dude, that's awesome.
I don't care what they do.
It's the old fucking TV on the cart.
100%.
Yeah.
No, now it's overhead projector off of the computer
It's
screen.
from iCloud.
Yep, just off of your computer
Yep.
screen. Yeah, Chromecast, something. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. This was super fun, man. I really enjoyed
Absolutely.
this. We'll post some of the day if it's on your Facebook or you
Yeah,
send it
yeah.
to us, we'll post it
Yeah,
on
we'll
our
post some links
page.
to stuff.
He does all the stuff. Everybody listen, you got to check this guy out, Tony Foxworthy. He's fucking hilarious. Come see the mustache, ladies.
Hope
maybe
your thighs aren't ticklish, ladies.
Yeah, come for a mustache ride the rails. We'll get this posted out. But dude, thank you for coming. Seriously.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks
it's
for having me,
awesome.
guys. I had fun.
Yeah,
And
it's
you
good.
let me talk about myself for like an hour. That's great.
Yeah, dude.
So-
I actually learned a lot about comedy.
Oh, well,
so-
thanks, man. I've been lucky to be around a lot of very smart people with decades and years in the business
fun
that were
learning.
able to tell me stuff that saved me decades of trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky. I always try to remember that, and that I got so lucky so quick, and that I just try to work enough to earn the shit that I got, and to just earn. I just want to be respected by my peers.
Yeah,
you know what I
for
mean.
sure.
So
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, man.
Yeah,
Thanks again. Until next week, everybody. Whiskey Wagers is out.
That was good.
Yeah, that was
hey,
awesome.
thanks, guys. That was fun.
Fucking Justin's blowing up my phone. We juice. In the
Oh, yeah.